I presume that our military knows where the bombs are landing and knows the truth about what the Russians are actually doing.
I think we should, certainly. We have the capability to do that, and that's my take, that we know where they're going. It may take some time to do the analysis, but we've been after ISIS in Syria for quite some time now, so we know where the ISIS targets are quite well. And if they're bombing someplace else, we'd know that.
What are they trying to do? We've talked to a lot of people who say you can't win there. It would be Afghanistan all over again for the Russians. So from a military perspective, what would their strategy be?
Well, I think their geopolitical strategy is to continue their strong relationship with Syria, which gives them their foothold in the Middle East, their only foothold in the Middle East. And they've been supporting the Assad regime for a long, long time. Virtually all the air defenses in Syria are Russian air defenses, and they've been bolstered recently. And of course, now they've deployed aircraft and tanks to Syria as well. So I think the first thing is to maintain their alliance with the Assad regime, and two, to have some influence in Middle East affairs. I think it's way down their list to fight ISIS, frankly. But that's the cover they're going to use to go in there and try to help the regime. That's my view.
General, you will forever be 59 years old when you took over the Joint Chiefs position. You came out of Kansas State, out of ROTC, and on you went to a storied career. You have direct boots on the ground and pilots in the seat experience in Vietnam. When you hear the phrase for Syria and the shattered borders of boots on the ground, what does that mean to General Myers?
Well, that means a commitment that you have to see through to the finish, whatever the political goal would be. And I think, President Obama laid that out early, that Assad has to go, and then you have to figure out, okay, if the Assad regime goes, what fills in behind it? And that'd be a long and messy process, because you have lots of folks that would like to rule the country, lots of different factions. So there needs to be some sort of international process. I'd say mainly diplomacy, but
right,
as you mentioned, some forces to maintain order the best you can while you sort out what follows the Assad regime. It's remarkable to me that that Assad's still in power. I mean, by all accounts, he could be held accountable as a war criminal. He's used chemical weapons on his own people. I mean, he's not the future for Syria in any scenario. So seems to me diplomacy needs to start working pretty hard here.
At Bloomberg Surveillance here, we speak with Admiral Stavridis, now at the Fletcher School at Tufts, and of course with his NATO experience. How would you deploy U.S. forces now, given what Russia's doing in the Eastern Mediterranean?
It makes it so much more difficult. And I think people heard Secretary Ash Carter, our U.S. Secretary of Defense, yesterday say that we're going to continue with our airstrikes unabated and not influenced by what Russia's doing. And of course, that sets up potential conflict when you have aircraft flying and they're not deconflicted exquisitely. I mean, when you're over a territory like Syria and you've got airplanes flying and you're hurling bombs at the ground, deconfliction's a really important concept, and we're not there yet. I know they're trying to have talks. Secretary Kerry has talked about having talks to start this, but those talks will be the first talks that any of our senior military or other people have had with the Russian counterparts for years. We've just had very poor relations here in the last 5-6 years.
Moving beyond Assad and taking the Russians at their word, which obviously is not a good idea, but at their word that they want to defeat ISIS as well, is there a military strategy? What would be the military strategy? Can we defeat ISIS either by ourselves or in some sort of alliance?
Well, yes, I think ISIS can be defeated, if you mean by defeat that men and women don't want to join their cause. But I think the military is only a partial solution to that. I think there are other instruments of national and international power that need to be brought to bear, whether it's diplomacy or economic or informational power to deal with the threat. You can't just think the military is going to be the only answer there. And developing that strategy as we found out in Iraq, is really, really difficult for any country, and the U.S. in particular. It's just really difficult to get ourselves organized around the thought that everybody's got to have a hand in this if we're going to be successful.